Welcome to another deep dive, everyone, where today we're going to be trying to unravel the mysteries of
The
personality.
mysteries of personality, yeah.
You guys sent us some pretty fascinating excerpts on personality theories, a book by C. George Boeree,
Oh, yeah.
and we're going to explore what makes you you, from
Yeah.
Freud's insights to Jung's archetypes
Yeah.
and so much more.
Yeah, it's like piecing together a puzzle,
Yeah,
trying to understand all those forces that shape our thoughts and feelings and actions.
exactly.
Yeah.
But before we get lost in this huge maze of theories,
Right.
let's start with the basics.
Yeah.
What exactly is personality?
Right.
I mean, it seems simple enough, but
Well, it's more complicated than you might think.
okay.
You see, personality is all about that invisible world, your inner thoughts and feelings. It's not like measuring your heart rate.
Yeah,
We can't just put your personality under a microscope.
that's true. It
Yeah.
makes you wonder how anyone can study it scientifically.
Yeah.
Boeree even mentions that personality theory is in this pre-scientific or philosophical stage.
Right, right. And that's part of the excitement.
Yeah.
We're exploring questions that have stumped philosophers and psychologists for centuries.
Right.
Like the whole free will versus determinism debate.
Yeah.
Do we actually choose our path
Right.
or is it all predetermined?
Oh, wow. That's a big one.
It is a big one.
And then there's the classic nature versus nurture debate.
Right.
How much of your personality is shaped by your genes
Hmm.
and how much by your experiences?
Yeah, it's like baking a cake.
Yeah,
You need the right ingredients and the right oven temperature to create something delicious.
exactly. So let's dive into some of the most intriguing theories,
Right.
starting with the psychoanalytic perspective.
Okay.
Now, you probably heard of Sigmund Freud.
Of course.
He's the guy who brought us the id,
Yeah.
the ego and the superego.
He's a big deal.
Yeah, Freud, the one who said all those hidden forces inside us are driving our behavior in ways we're often totally unaware of.
Uh-huh.
It's kind of like an iceberg,
Yeah.
with most of it looking beneath the surface.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah,
Yeah, Freud was all about those unconscious motivations
right.
and the huge impact of childhood experiences.
Uh-huh.
He believed that those early conflicts we go through
Yeah.
can actually shape your adult personality.
Hmm.
Have you ever heard of the Oedipus complex?
Yes, vaguely.
Okay.
It's all a bit intense, isn't it?
It is, but Freud's theories,
Yeah.
while controversial,
Right.
can help us understand some pretty common patterns.
Okay.
Think about defense mechanisms,
Uh-huh.
repression denial,
Yeah.
projection.
Now, projection, that one seems especially relevant
Oh,
with
absolutely.
everyday life.
Absolutely. Let's say you're feeling insecure about a presentation at work,
Okay.
right? Instead of acknowledging that insecurity,
Huh.
you might project it onto a colleague
Well,
and accuse them of being nervous or unprepared.
wow. I can see how understanding projection could be really helpful in navigating relationships,
Oh, yeah.
both personal and professional.
Absolutely. It helps you decode behaviors and understand that
Yeah.
sometimes what we see in others is a reflection of ourselves.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, and while Freud's theories have been hugely influential,
oh, yeah.
they've also been criticized for being a bit too focused on sexuality
Yeah.
and kind of lacking empirical support.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's interesting how some of his ideas seem a bit outdated now,
Right.
but
Yeah.
he definitely got people talking about the unconscious mind,
Yeah,
which is a huge contribution.
absolutely.
Okay, moving on from Freud, we have Carl Jung,
Okay.
who had some pretty interesting ideas about universal archetypes,
Right. Jung was fascinated by the collective unconscious.
the collective unconscious.
Yeah, a kind of shared reservoir of universal symbols and patterns
Okay.
that he believed, influence our experiences and perceptions.
Mhm.
It's like we're all connected through these unconscious archetypes.
So these are like those recurring characters or motifs we see
Yeah.
across cultures
Yeah.
and throughout history,
Uh-huh.
like the hero, the villain,
Right.
the wise old man.
Exactly. Think about the classic hero's journey. You see it
Okay.
in myths and movies, even personal stories.
Yeah.
Jung would say that those patterns resonate with us
Uh-huh.
because they tap into those archetypes that reside deep within us.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Jung also gave us the introversion-extroversion spectrum,
Right.
which is still widely used today.
Oh, for sure.
It's amazing how his ideas have influenced so many areas,
Yeah.
from psychology
Yeah.
to art and literature.
Yeah. It makes you realize that personality isn't just about individual quirks.
Right.
It's also about those universal patterns
Huh.
that connect us all.
Mm-mm. Okay, now let's venture into the realm of the Neo-Freudians,
Okay.
thinkers, who expanded on Freud's ideas and offered their own perspectives,
Right.
starting with Alfred Adler,
Okay.
who focused on our social motivations
Eh.
and the idea of striving for superiority.
Right. So less about hidden urges
Yeah.
and more about how we relate to others
Right.
and find our place in the world.
Exactly.
Yeah, Adler believed our primary motivation is to overcome feelings of inferiority, which he called striving for superiority.
Oh,
And he believed that our early social interactions,
That's nice.
especially within our families,
yeah.
play a huge role in shaping those feelings.
It's interesting how much our childhood experiences
I know, right?
seem to impact our personalities according to these early thinkers.
Yeah.
But it makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Those early relationships kind of set the stage
Uh-huh.
for how we view ourselves in the world.
Absolutely. Now, Adler also came up with the concept of style of life.
Style of life.
Yeah.
Which is
Essentially your unique way of adapting to the world
okay.
and striving for those feelings of belonging and significance.
Style of life. Can you give me an example?
Sure. Let's say someone has a very dominant style of life.
Okay.
They might be very assertive, ambitious, and focused on achieving success and recognition.
Okay.
Whereas someone with an avoiding style of life might prioritize comfort and security, often shying away from challenges or conflict.
So it's like a blueprint
Yes.
for how you navigate the world.
Exactly. And understanding your own style of life can give you valuable insights into your motivations
Right.
and patterns of behavior.
Good. Now, another key neo-Freudian
Uh-huh.
is Karen Horney,
Right.
who challenged some of Freud's assumptions about female psychology
Yes.
and emphasized the role of cultural factors.
Right. I've always been fascinated by Horney's work.
You too.
She was ahead of her time in
Sure.
recognizing the impact of societal expectations
Right.
on gender roles and personality development.
She argued that cultural factors,
Yeah.
not just biological ones,
Right.
contribute to those differences we see
Uh-huh.
between men and women.
Right. She also introduced the concept of basic anxiety,
Basic anxiety.
which she believed stems from those childhood feelings of helplessness and insecurity.
Oh, I see.
Do you think that resonates with you?
Definitely. I think everyone experiences that feeling of vulnerability
Yeah.
at some point in their lives.
Right.
Especially during childhood.
Yeah.
Horney really nailed that sense of needing security and connection
Yeah.
to thrive.
I agree. Her work, along with Adler's, helped broaden the scope of psychoanalysis, moving beyond purely biological drives
Right.
to consider the impact of social and cultural forces on personality.
It feels like we're starting to uncover the complexity of personality, those layers of biology,
Yeah.
experience, and
Really.
social influences that interact
Yeah.
to shape who we are.
Right.
Okay, before we move on,
Yeah.
I'm curious.
Okay.
Have any of these early psychoanalytic ideas
Yeah.
sparked any insights about your own personality or the people in your life?
What's striking to me is how these early theories,
Yeah.
despite their limitations,
Right.
really opened up a whole new way of thinking about the human mind.
Okay.
They gave us a language
Yeah.
to talk about those inner workings, those hidden motivations that we often aren't even aware of.
I agree. It's like they shone a light
Yeah,
on the hidden machinery of the psyche.
absolutely.
Now let's turn our attention to Erikson,
Okay.
who took Freud's ideas in a new direction.
Right. Erikson expanded on those psychosexual stages into a theory that spans the entire lifespan, emphasizing, those social and emotional challenges we face at each stage of development.
His 8 stages of psychosocial development really resonated with me.
Yeah.
It's like a roadmap
Uh-huh.
for those key conflicts we navigate throughout our lives.
Yeah.
And his concept of the identity crisis during adolescence is so relevant,
It is.
especially in today's world where young people face so many choices and pressures.
Exactly. He highlighted that period of intense self-exploration, trying to figure out who you are and where you fit in.
Yeah.
And it's not just limited to adolescence.
Right.
Erikson believed that identity formation is an ongoing process throughout life.
Now, shifting gears a bit, let's explore the humanistic perspective,
Okay.
which focuses on our potential for growth and self-actualization.
Right.
Carl Rogers and Abraham Maslow are the key figures here.
Yeah. Rogers, with his person-centered approach, believed in the inherent goodness of every individual
Okay.
and their innate drive to become the best version of themselves.
Right.
He called it the self-actualizing tendency.
He also emphasized the importance of unconditional positive regard.
Yeah.
That sense of being accepted and valued for who you are, regardless of your flaws or mistakes.
Yeah.
It's like that fertile soil that allows our true selves to blossom, isn't it?
Beautifully put.
And then there's Maslow's famous hierarchy of needs, a pyramid that illustrates how our motivations progress from basic survival needs to those higher-level desires for belonging, esteem, and ultimately self-actualization.
Right. It's like we're climbing a mountain, striving to reach that peak of personal fulfillment.
Exactly.
But first, we need to lay a solid foundation.
Right.
We need to feel safe and secure, connected to others, and have a sense of self-worth before we can reach for those higher-level needs.
Maslow also studied what he called self-actualized individuals.
He did.
People like Albert Einstein and Eleanor Roosevelt, trying to pinpoint the qualities that set them apart.
Right. He found that they were often highly creative and independent and had a strong sense of purpose.
Okay.
They were also accepting of themselves and others and had a deep appreciation for life.
Okay, so we've explored those early psychoanalytic theories, climbed Maslow's pyramid of needs, and glimpsed the humanistic ideal of self-actualization.
We have.
It's amazing how many different lenses we can use to understand the complexities of personality.
Yeah.
Now, before we dive into behaviorism, I'm curious, what resonates most with you so far?
I think what's fascinating is how each of these perspectives, while focusing on different aspects of personality, ultimately highlight the importance of our early experiences and those core human needs for connection, meaning, and growth.
I agree. It seems like those themes keep popping up, no matter which theory we're exploring. Okay, ready to shift gears again and delve into the world of behaviorism.
Absolutely. Let's explore how learning and environmental factors contribute to that unique tapestry of your personality.
Okay.
All
right, so let's jump into behaviorism.
Okay.
This perspective really emphasizes how our experiences, especially those involving learning, shape who we are. It's a bit different from that psychoanalytic approach we were talking about. Which focuses more on those internal drives and conflicts.
Exactly. Behaviorists believe that personality is mainly a product of learning, shaped by those rewards and punishments we encounter. Throughout life, think of it like training a puppy. Consistent reinforcement helps shape their behavior over time.
That makes sense. So who are some of the big names in behaviorism that we should know about?
Well, B.F. Skinner is definitely a key figure. He championed radical behaviorism.
Radical behavior.
Arguing that personality is basically a collection of learned behaviors. Molded by those external factors you mentioned, those rewards and punishments. He called this operant conditioning.
Operant conditioning, that rings a bell.
Yeah.
Can you refresh my memory on how that works?
Sure. Imagine you're trying to teach your dog a new trick. Every time they get it right, you give them a treat. That's positive reinforcement. Or if you want to discourage a certain behavior, you might use a spray bottle. That's punishment. Through this process of, reinforcement and punishment, behaviors are either strengthened or weakened.
Oh, okay. Now I remember.
Good.
And you mentioned that these principles have been applied in therapy.
Absolutely. Operant conditioning is widely used in behavioral therapies to help people modify undesirable behaviors like phobias or addictions. It's all about understanding those learned patterns and using reinforcement to shape more positive and adaptive behaviors.
That's incredible. It really highlights the power of learning in shaping who we are.
It does.
But isn't there more to personality than just rewards and punishments?
Yeah.
I mean, we're not just robots reacting to our environment, are we?
You're right, and that's where Albert Bandura comes in. He kind of expanded on behaviorism by emphasizing the role of cognitive processes and observation and personality development. His social cognitive theory suggests that we don't just passively react to our environment. We also think and interpret and learn from watching others.
Oh, that makes a lot more sense. So we're not just mindless puppets, we're actively engaged in shaping our own personalities.
Exactly. One of Bandura's key concepts is reciprocal determinism.
Reciprocal determinism.
Which means that our behavior, personal factors like our thoughts and beliefs and the environment all interact and influence each other.
Okay.
It's a dynamic system, not just a one-way street.
That's a fascinating concept. Can you give me an example?
Sure.
Of how reciprocal determinism might play out in real life?
Sure. Imagine you're someone who loves playing sports.
Okay.
You know, that's part of your personality.
Okay.
Because you enjoy it, you actively seek out opportunities to play.
Right.
You know, you join a team, you practice regularly.
Yeah.
This, in turn, shapes your environment. You're surrounded by other athletes. You're exposed to new challenges and opportunities.
Right.
And those experiences further influence your personality.
Right.
You become more disciplined.
Yeah.
More competitive, maybe even more confident.
Wow. I can see how that interplay between our actions and thoughts and environment can really shape who we are over time.
It's pretty amazing.
And speaking of beliefs, Bandura also talked about self-efficacy, right?
Yes, you did.
That belief in your own abilities to succeed.
Exactly. And self-efficacy plays a huge role in how we approach challenges and achieve our goals. If you believe you can do something, you're more likely to put in the effort and persist even when things get tough.
So if I believe I can learn a new language, I'm more likely to stick with it.
You got it.
Even when it gets challenging.
Exactly. Your belief in yourself becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Wow.
It shapes your actions, your choices, and ultimately your outcomes.
That's empowering. Okay, before we move on from behaviorism, are there any key takeaways you think our listeners should hold on to?
I think the biggest takeaway is the power of learning.
Okay.
While our genes provide a blueprint, it's those interactions with our environment, those patterns of reinforcement observation and self-belief that truly sculpt our unique personalities.
So even though we might have certain predispositions, we're not stuck with them.
Nope.
We have the ability to learn and grow and change throughout our lives.
Exactly. Now, are you ready to explore the trait perspective?
Absolutely. Bring on the traits.
All right. So while the psychoanalytic and behavioral perspectives focus on, the processes that shape personality, the trait perspective is all about identifying and describing those enduring characteristics that make you you.
So like whether you're introverted or extroverted. Organized or spontaneous.
Exactly. Those are all examples of personality traits.
Oh.
One of the pioneers in this field was Gordon Allport.
Gordon Allport.
Who believed that each person has a unique constellation of traits. He actually categorized traits into 3 levels.
3 levels.
Cardinal traits, central traits, and secondary traits.
3 levels of traits. That's interesting.
It is.
Can you break that down for me?
Sure. Imagine a pyramid.
Okay, a pyramid.
At the very top, you have cardinal traits.
Okay.
Those rare dominant traits that shape almost every aspect of a person's life.
Okay.
Think of Mother Teresa and her unwavering compassion, or Martin Luther King Jr. and his relentless pursuit of social justice. These traits are so central to their identity that they're practically synonymous with their names.
Wow, that's powerful. So not everyone has a cardinal trait.
Exactly. They're pretty rare.
Okay.
Most people are defined by their central traits.
Central traits.
Those core qualities that are readily apparent to others.
Okay.
Think of someone who's always optimistic or someone who's consistently reliable. These traits form the foundation of your personality.
Okay, and then at the base of the pyramid, we have those secondary traits.
Right. Secondary traits are more situation-specific preferences and tendencies.
Okay.
Maybe you're generally patient. But you get easily frustrated when you're hungry.
Right.
Or maybe you're usually outgoing, but you clam up in large groups. These traits add nuance and complexity to your personality.
It's like those secondary traits are the sprinkles on the cupcake.
I like that.
Adding a little extra flavor and personality.
It has a little extra flair.
Now, another key figure in trait theory is Hans Eysenck.
Hans Eysenck.
Who took a more biological approach.
Right.
He used a technique called factor analysis.
Factor analysis.
Basically a statistical method for identifying patterns.
Right.
To identify 3 fundamental dimensions of personality.
Factor analysis. Now, there's a term I've heard before. Don't fully understand.
Okay.
Can you break that down for me? Of course, imagine you have this big data set of people's responses to a personality questionnaire. Factor analysis helps you find those underlying patterns, those clusters of traits that tend to go together.
Okay.
It's like sorting through a jumbled box of Legos and finding those pieces that connect to form a cohesive structure.
Okay, so that's how Eysenck identified his 3 personality dimensions.
That's how he did it.
What are they exactly?
He called them extroversion, introversion.
Okay.
Neuroticism, stability, and psychoticism.
Okay.
You're probably familiar with extroversion and introversion.
Yeah.
It's that spectrum of how outgoing and sociable you are.
Right.
Neuroticism refers to your tendency to experience negative emotions, like anxiety and worry.
Right.
While stability refers to your emotional resilience and calmness.
Okay. And psychoticism, that sounds a bit intense.
It does, but Eysenck wasn't using the term in like a clinical sense.
Yeah.
He was describing a dimension that ranges from tough-mindedness and nonconformity to tender-mindedness and empathy.
Got it. So those 3 dimensions capture a pretty broad spectrum of personality traits.
They do, and Eysenck believed these dimensions have a biological basis.
Okay.
Meaning they're influenced by your genes and nervous system.
So it's that nature and nurture interplay again.
It is.
We have those innate predispositions, but our experiences also shape how those traits are expressed.
Exactly. It's a fascinating dance between biology and environment.
It is.
Now, are you ready to venture beyond these well-known theories?
Yeah.
And explore some alternative perspectives on personality?
Absolutely. The more perspectives, the better.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've covered some of those big names like Freud and Jung and the behaviorists.
We have.
But I'm really excited to kind of dive into some of those less mainstream theories that you mentioned.
Okay, yeah.
Where should we start?
Well, one that you might find interesting is George Kelly's personal construct theory.
Personal construct theory.
Yeah, it shifts the focus away from those internal drives or environmental influences to how you as an individual actually make sense of the world around you.
So it's more about how we interpret our experiences than the experiences themselves.
Exactly.
Okay.
Kelly believed that we each develop our own unique set of personal constructs.
Personal constructs.
Yeah, you know, these mental frameworks that we use to understand and predict events. It's like we're all wearing different pairs of glasses, you know, perceiving reality through our own personalized filters.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah. So how do these personal constructs actually work?
Yeah, how do they work?
Well, imagine you meet someone new.
Okay.
You might automatically categorize them as friendly or unfriendly, trustworthy or untrustworthy, based on your past experiences and beliefs.
Okay.
You know, these are your personal constructs at work,
right?
Helping you navigate the social world. And these constructs aren't fixed.
Right.
They're constantly being tested and revised based on new information.
So it's like a dynamic process.
It is.
Of making sense of the world and our place in it.
Exactly. And this process can have a huge impact on your personality and behavior. You know, if you believe that people are inherently good, you're likely to approach relationships with openness and trust.
Okay.
But if you've been hurt in the past and you've kind of developed this construct that people are generally untrustworthy, you might be more guarded and cautious.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that Kelly's theory has implications for therapy.
It does. Therapists who use a personal construct approach, you know, help people explore their existing constructs, those beliefs and assumptions that might be holding them back, and develop new, more adaptive ways of seeing themselves and the world.
It sounds like a really powerful tool for personal growth.
It can be.
Now, you also mentioned some theories from an existential perspective. Can you tell me more about those?
Absolutely. Existential psychology delves into those big questions about meaning, purpose, and freedom.
Right.
One key figure in this field is Viktor Frankl.
Viktor Frankl.
A Holocaust survivor whose experiences profoundly shaped his views on human nature.
You know, I've heard of Frankl's work. You developed logotherapy, right?
Yes. Logotherapy emphasizes the importance of finding meaning in life. Even in the face of suffering. You know, Frankl believed that our search for meaning is a fundamental human drive. And that a lack of meaning can lead to that feeling of emptiness and despair. That he called the existential vacuum.
His story is so inspiring, you know, to find meaning in the midst of such horrific suffering.
I know.
It really speaks to the resilience of the human spirit.
It does. And his work offers a powerful message for all of us.
Yeah.
That even in the face of adversity, you know, we have the power to choose our attitude, to create meaning and to find purpose.
Yeah, it's a reminder that we're not just passive victims of circumstance. We have agency in shaping our own experiences.
We do.
Now, you also mentioned Rollo May.
Yes.
Another existential thinker.
Another one.
How does his work contribute to our understanding of personality?
Well, May's existential psychology really explores those fundamental themes of freedom, responsibility anxiety, and the search for meaning. He believed that we're all faced with these existential anxieties.
Existential anxiety.
Like the anxiety of freedom, the anxiety of death, the anxiety of meaninglessness.
Those are some heavy anxieties.
They are.
How do we deal with those?
Well, May argued that you can't avoid these anxieties.
Right.
But we can choose how we respond to them.
Okay.
We can either shrink back in fear and denial.
Yeah.
Or we can embrace our freedom to take responsibility for our choices and create a life that is meaningful and authentic.
So it's like those anxieties are a call to action.
Yeah.
An invitation to live more intentionally and purposefully.
It is.
And you also mentioned that Jean Piaget, who's famous for his work on cognitive development, has some insights about personality.
He does.
How does that connect?
Well, Piaget's stages of cognitive development really illustrate how our understanding of the world evolves over time.
Right.
And this cognitive development can influence how we perceive and interact with our surroundings, ultimately shaping our personality.
So the way we think impacts the way we behave and relate to others.
Exactly. For example, a young child with limited cognitive abilities might see the world in very concrete terms, focused on their immediate needs and desires.
Right.
As they develop more sophisticated cognitive abilities, they become more capable of abstract thought, empathy, and understanding different perspectives.
Right.
This in turn can influence their social interactions, their values, and ultimately their personality.
It makes me wonder if revisiting Piaget's work could help us better understand the adults we become.
It's possible.
It's fascinating how all these different areas of psychology connect.
It is, and we haven't even touched on the burgeoning field of biopsychology, where researchers are exploring the biological underpinnings of personality.
Wow.
They're looking at the role of genes, neurotransmitters, and hormones in shaping our temperament and traits.
So we're talking about the nature side of the nature-nurture debate.
Exactly. Research suggests that our temperament, those early predispositions to certain emotional and behavioral patterns, has a strong genetic component. For example, some babies are naturally more easygoing and adaptable, while others are more sensitive and reactive.
Right.
These temperamental differences can lay the foundation for certain personality traits later in life.
It's amazing how much we're learning about the complex interplay between our biology and our experiences.
I know, it's really fascinating.
Okay, before we wrap up, there's one more perspective you mentioned.
Yeah.
That I'm really curious about.
Yeah.
Sociobiology.
Yes, sociobiology is a fascinating, albeit controversial field.
Yeah.
That attempts to explain social behavior, including personality, in terms of evolutionary principles.
Right.
It suggests that certain personality traits may have evolved because they provided survival and reproductive advantages to our ancestors.
So like those traits that helped our ancestors survive in harsh environments or attract mates would be more likely to be passed down through generations.
Exactly. For example, traits like cooperation, altruism, and leadership might have been favored because they helped groups function more effectively and survive in challenging conditions.
That's a thought-provoking perspective, but I can see why it might be controversial.
It is.
It seems like it could be used to justify certain social inequalities.
You're right, and that's one of the criticisms that sociobiologists have faced.
Right.
It's important to remember that just because a trait might have evolutionary roots, it doesn't mean that it's fixed or unchangeable.
Right.
Culture and social norms also play a huge role in shaping how those traits are expressed.
Okay. So we've traveled from the depths of the unconscious to the evolutionary roots of personality.
It's been quite a journey.
It's been an incredible journey.
It has.
Before we wrap up, are there any final thoughts you want to leave our listener with?
Well, I think the most important takeaway from our deep dive is that there's no single definitive answer to the question of, what makes you you? Personality is this complex tapestry woven from biological, psychological, and social threads.
It's like we've assembled this giant jigsaw puzzle with each piece representing a different perspective. Right. And the more pieces we have, the clearer the picture becomes.
Exactly. And the beauty of it is that the exploration never ends. As we continue to learn more about the human mind and brain, our understanding of personality will undoubtedly evolve.
So to our fellow deep divers out there,
Yes.
Keep exploring.
Keep questioning.
Keep questioning.
And keep embracing that mystery of what makes you uniquely you.
And remember,
yes,
there's no right or wrong answer.
Yep.
The journey of self-discovery is an ongoing adventure.
It is.
And it's yours to create.
That's right.
Thanks for joining us on this fascinating deep dive into the world personality theories.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep diving.